Elliot,
Hello.
what did you have for dinner tonight?
I actually had it was a pineapple red duck pineapple curry at a Thai food restaurant.
Okay.
Very
The
nice.
reason the reason I ask is because we started recording at a new time last week,
Yeah.
but we're recording now. Normally that time is going to be about 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, but it's currently almost 7 p.m.
Yeah.
because Elliot went out for dinner and I got stuck in an IKEA. And no, it's
Yeah.
not because I got lost.
You were building. You were building things.
No, we were bartering.
You were
We were,
bartering
we were
in
trying to
IKEA.
buy a floor model of a discontinued product.
I feel like IKEA's already pretty cheap. Bartering seems like
Well, but
gilding the lily a little bit.
we were bartering to get them to sell it to us because they're discontinuing it and they don't have any more. They
How can they
just have
sell
the
it
floor
to you
model.
if it's? Oh,
They
you
have the
wanted
floor
the
model.
floor model.
Yeah,
I mean, they might as well. It's not like
that's
having the
what I'm
floor model
saying.
is useful because
That's what I'm saying. The customer service manager called the salespeople 3 times and they didn't pick up any time.
amazing.
So they've got my number. IKEA, if you're watching, you've got my number.
IKEA,
Literally,
if you're watching.
literally, the IKEA has my phone number. You know what where IKEA's from?
Oh,
Sweden.
Sweden.
And you know what Sweden is? A Counter-Strike country. That's right. We're talking about Counter-Strike now.
Roll the intro.
Yep. Excellent.
We nearly forgot the intro last week, so I just wanted to make
We
sure
really
we were rolling
did.
the intro. Yeah.
All right, but now we don't. Now we have an intro. We're good. We've got one event going on right now. It started 2 days ago. Started on Monday, I believe. It's going to go through this weekend, and then we'll start with real events that really matter again. Not that this one doesn't matter, but it kind of Blast is
It
its
sort
own
of
thing.
matters, but like even if you lose, you're still kind of in, so it's fine.
We have Cologne starting soon. That will be where we
And
really
Cologne's a
kick
big
into
boy.
gear.
Cologne's where it really matters.
But until that point, we're stuck talking about Blast Fall groups. Now,
Yeah.
there are some interesting things here because there are new lineups that we didn't see in Esports World Cup. We're going to start with Group A. I'll list the teams. We'll do our normal shtick with the groups. This is basically the only news for this week, by the way. For viewers at home and
there's
us.
there's the NA.
Oh yeah, we'll talk about that.
That's
at the end.
great. I think there's probably one other thing.
We'll use the NA bit as a nice as the
palate
ginger
cleanser
of our sushi meal here in between.
Group
B and C.
Or the I'm trying to think of a
Sorbet?
Thai food one. Yeah, I
No.
couldn't think of something for Thai food. That would have been quite fitting given the intro. But
Yeah. Okay. Group A. Spirit, OG, Complexity, and Heroic. There have been no changes in this group except for OG. OG's got a
who have
lineup.
a stand-in.
They have a stand-in and a new lineup.
Yeah.
So if you don't remember what OG has been doing, that's very reasonable because they're OG. So they lost Heavy God to Cloud9 in the transfer. They were playing Keto, Nexius, Fiku, Heavy God, and Moto. They still don't have a replacement for Heavy God. They are currently playing with Thomas.
Yeah. My friend has a... so I don't know if you've ever played Football Manager, but in
I
that,
have.
like...
I played F1 Manager too.
Okay, so in Football Manager, when players retire, every year they create what football like Sports Interactive try and call them new gens, but they're always called regens because in original Football Manager, they regenerated old players into new ones. My friend likes to call NBA players he doesn't recognize regens, and that's how I feel about this OG lineup. They've just got like 3 regens and then Keto.
It's like every draft class in college football. In my current college football
like,
playthrough,
it's like they're just a team of regens. I'm sure they're all fine players, but they're never going to do any damage.
No,
we've seen. Like, I'm just so bored of OG. It's boring. They don't do anything.
The problem isn't even that like I'm bored of OG or that this team isn't good. It just, which both are true. I am bored of OG and this team is not good.
Yeah.
When was the last time OG had a good team? Or even without that, where it felt like OG was trying to have a good team.
Right at the start.
Yeah, with the NBK lineup, that kind of NBK and Alexi B, that kind of felt like they were trying to have. And
I mean, they were pretty decent for a little while.
I think the lineup that they had with Nico and Flames and Alexi B and Valde and Montu was probably their height. That was in mid 2021.
I think that their height was like 6 months after they reformed, where they actually like finished like third at events sometimes.
None of it was good.
Yeah, no, I know it was good. Yeah,
but like even though since 2022 hit, it just has not seemed like OG has tried at a single thing.
Yeah, like they're trying to like talent farm. They're trying to be like an upmarket endpoint.
And for what it's worth, they did that successfully for a little bit, right?
Yeah,
they revitalized Alexi B's career to a degree.
I mean, in more with like
Flames,
the Heavy Garden Flames. Yeah,
yeah. I mean, I'm looking at those two, but the problem is we say those two. The list of players that they've had have, I don't think that you want to be a talent farm if you're signing Keto.
No, I think they're trying to do the endpoint thing where you have two stable like role players and then you just fit in stars around them. So you have Keto as your like always first man in, you have Fico as always a support player. And then you just plug and play. Like you get a young IGL, you get a young Orpa, and a young Star Rifle because those are the three roles that sell. Like those are the three that make money. Young IGLs who are good make money. Suhi worth an absolute fortune.
Mm-hmm.
Young Orpas who are good worth a fortune. Complexity need one, for example. A lot.
Not trying to hit any marks here,
but I mean, I would say Falcons kind of need a new Orpa. Like. In some parts, it's not that good anymore. Like teams always need great AWPers. Teams always want to buy the next star player, and teams always want a young, upcoming IGL. So if you just have the two role players around them, nobody's paying loads of money for entry fraggers except Liquid, who bought Yekindar for an obscene amount of money, probably. Well,
we'll talk about Liquid in a minute. We'll talk about Liquid in a minute.
So, like, in theory, it's fine, but they don't seem to hit all that often.
Yeah,
which is a problem.
They don't. They have hit on Flamesy and Heavy God, and for what it's worth, Heavy God was on Endpoint, and we already know Endpoint's history as the kingmaker for Israeli Counter-Strike players, and Flamesy was also on Endpoint.
Yeah,
there has to be some point in which you think that maybe Endpoint's the maker and OG is trying to buy from Endpoint and go, hey,
when I just said they're trying to be an upmarket Endpoint, they're quite literally being an upmarket Endpoint at some point. Like they are the middleman. They're taking ingredients, turning them into meals and selling them to McDonald's. Like
it's so stupid.
But because Endpoint can't afford to pay the salaries OG can, so OG can take them for cheap and then flip them if they're any good. Which Endpoint scouting is amazing. I know that the owner has spoken before about like they have a lot of edges, like very stats based stuff. But supposedly, and I don't know if this is true, but supposedly they signed Boros without ever seeing him play. Endpoint
didn't sign Boros.
Did they not?
Oh, they did for a while ago. Sorry, I thought you meant for this newest lineup. I was like looking at I have the newest lineup pulled up, and I was
Endpoint pulled Boros from like nowhere, and apparently they'd never really seen him play. They just looked at his numbers and were like, "Yeah, no, this guy's like we're taking a gamble on this guy. Like, it's too
and you know
big.
what?
And you can see why when you watch.
He's good.
Him, you could, like mechanically, he's unbelievable. Maybe
don't
he
have to worry
issues outside of the server, but.
Don't worry about the Falcons bit of it all, but that's
he's money. He is money. His hands are amazing. His head isn't.
Unfortunately, if you were wondering, Endpoint does not have another Israeli player to come up on their lineup. They do have some. They have got a new British player and a new Polish player.
Is it Azuwu?
Azuwu and Sejat.
He's meant to be. I know the UK people are very excited about Azuwu. Very excited about him. Him and Tree 60 are the two.
Tree 60, excellent.
Tree 60 are the two UK players who are meant to be the next two that are meant to be any good.
Let's get Endpoint at more events than OG. That's all I want.
I mean,
it's not like it's that much of a real downgrade.
Yeah, like I'm just so bored of OG. Like the fact that we spent half their time talking about fucking Endpoint should tell you exactly how good OG are. Like,
So let's talk about Group A. OG faced Spirit in the opening round. That went exactly as you expect.
Yeah.
Complexity played against Heroic in the opening round, and Complexity looked like shit.
Yeah, I mean, look, it wasn't that bad.
It wasn't
They
good.
weren't good. They weren't good. Don't get me wrong. They weren't good. But
Now,
like,
hold on. Can we need to throw a disclaimer in here? Heroic was missing their Opper. Heroic was missing Degster. Okay.
I'll be honest. I forgot that until just now.
Okay. So
I knew there was a reason it was bad.
Let me note
and I looked at
that
it, and when I look back, I was like, it wasn't as bad as I remember. And then you said they didn't have the Opera. I was like, oh yeah, that's why.
Complexity
it was bad,
lost 2-0-2 to Heroic, and Heroic did not have anyone that picked up the op to challenge Halzerk in the way that Degster would.
Yeah. To be fair to Halzerk, he top fragged.
He did, but the rest
he
of the team
he wasn't brilliant, but he was the best player.
The rest of the team couldn't do anything about it.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing, right? Like, if Elige doesn't show up, this team doesn't win. It's as simple as that. And then when he does show up against OG, they win. Like,
yeah. So they, as you just alluded to, they played OG. The Complexity beat them. OG did take a map off. We actually get to see, because Spirit beat Heroic in the upper finals, we get to see a Heroic Complexity rematch.
yeah.
That will be tomorrow morning, Friday morning.
Yeah.
My time, which means Friday midday, Europe time.
It says Friday morning. Yeah. Oh, yeah. 11 o'clock. Yeah.
It says Friday 6 a.m. for me. I'm doing
so
my
midday.
best
Midday EU. Yeah.
Point is, that may actually be a good match because Degster is there now, I believe.
Be funny if Heroic lose with Degster.
That would be so
That'd be really funny.
That would be quite good.
What happens then? What
I don't know.
What possibly can we conclude from that? If Heroic 2-0 Complexity without Degster, bring in Degster and then lose. You're like, because we know Degster isn't bad. So
we know Degster is good.
This is entirely hypothetical. They're probably just 2-0 them anyway. So it doesn't really matter. But it'd be really funny if they didn't.
Somewhere in my head, I thought Degster was coming back. I actually just took a quick look. I don't see anything that says he's coming back or not.
All right, so you just made it up.
I'm kind of guessing, and I think there's some hopium. But like, right. Okay, even if Degster isn't there, there's got to be some amount of looking at this and going, okay, Complexity, are you going to show any amount of movement here?
Okay. Yeah, let's talk about this because, I mean, as you say, there's not a lot of news. Let's do a bit of a dive into Complexity.
Yeah.
I don't fully understand what people think Complexity should have done. Because right, list of AWPers better than Halzerk. There is quite a few, don't get me wrong, but
list of available and possible to get AWPers better than Halzerk is a very
and
short
at a
list.
Similar price.
Very short list.
Halzerk is
any.
Halzerk is, from what I hear, not on loads of money. Like he's don't get me wrong, he's on more money than I am, but from what I hear, he's not on like outrageous money.
Yeah,
he's like, I think most of their budget is on Elige. But also most of their ability is also on Elige. But this team wants to stay NA for brand reasons, for sponsor reasons,
which we talked about last week is a totally viable and real thing to do.
Yeah, like somebody tweeted me and was like, "Oh, they could just get 2 EU imports and JT, like they can still play the NA RMR." I was like, they're not NA to play the RMR. That's not the reason they're NA. Like, Jason Lake bought this team. They got the Dallas Cowboys fucking star.
Well, they're not anymore.
They're not leaving NA. And they're still doing HLTV.
No. They still have the star. That's still the logo. But that was because of the Cowboy stuff. But since they got sold back to Jason Lake from Game Square,
yeah, right.
They still have the star, but it's not a Dallas Cowboys related star. It's a America Texas related star, I guess.
It's the Dallas Cowboys.
I'm just saying.
It's the same one they got when they bought my Dallas Cowboys. It's still the same star.
I understand.
Regardless, they're going to stay in NA. They're probably going to stay American as well. I don't think.
No, I don't think they'll do some liquid
I don't think they want it. Not that they can. And then, so you could talk about Grim and Floppy maybe not being superstars, which is fair, but what NA players are better? Somebody told me, like, oh, they could get JBA, and I'm like, JBA as good as you think JBA is, Grim was doing the same thing at the same level before, like, if not better. I think Grim was probably better than JBA at the same level. Floppy, the same thing. Like, yes, these players look mediocre at like the top end, but there aren't many, if any, better players in NA. The only one who could have been a genuine upgrade from North America was Malbs, who went for an obscene amount of money to a much better team. So,
And
I don't know what they're supposed to do.
There is one other team that you could get upgrades from, but I think it is a poor decision, which is you go and start talking and thinking about NRG. With
I don't think they're upgrades.
I don't know if they're upgrades either, but they're definitely not upgrades in terms of price. I can almost guarantee you that Automatic and Breezy are making more money than the complexity players. Sans
and I don't think. I mean, I imagine the complexity players' salaries have gone up since I heard what they were. Because they've been better since I heard what they were.
Yes.
But they're still probably on the low end at tier 1. Like, they're not earning the same amount as Team Vitality. They're not earning the same amount as Liquid either.
No.
I think Eluge might be, because he came from a massive contract. Complexity saw the chance of, like, we can get a genuine superstar.
Mm-hmm.
Let's break our wage structure for him. And I don't think any complexity player would complain when they see his wages higher than theirs, because he's better than all of them. It's as simple as that.
He's like categorically, statistically better than all the complexity players.
But in order to afford, in my opinion, again, this is my opinion, this is based on stuff I heard a while ago. It could be nonsense.
Hold on.
In my opinion,
can we this entire show is our opinion.
Well, of course.
I understand us saying it here.
I don't want it to be like, I don't want people to be like, oh my god, he knows something.
I feel like we just generically need to say that the show is our opinion, because I'm not sure people get that sometimes.
No, most of what I say is 100% fact. Most of what I say is 100% fact.
Yeah.
To get a genuine upgrade on Hulzerk, I think you have to sell a leash.
I think that's probably true, but I come back to the question of, say you increase the Hulzerk budget by 50%, right? Let's say you double the Hulzerk salary, okay?
If you double it, you can get some good players.
Okay, let's say you increase it by 50%, right? So let's say, and I have no numbers behind this, say he's making $100,000 a year. Say you bring that budget to $150,000 a year. Okay, say you bring it up by 50 grand. Okay, what offer could you possibly afford in the 50% higher rate that is available, or available with a low buyout, that fits the play? Like, the problem is there's a lot of bits here that you really need to think about.
Yep. So the answer you'll get, and it's not entirely unfair, is that they need to take a gamble on a CIS AWPer or somebody like a tier 2 EU player and hope he comes good, which is what they did with Hulzerk.
Well, Hulzerk was proven a little bit, right? He had the
proven on Dignitas, which is tier 2. Like,
yeah, but he had the Dignitas split, and even with the Dignitas split, he had, he played with real players that you can talk to and get a real idea from, right? If you play with Get Right and Forest and Lekro, if you're a complexity, you can go talk to Forest and say, how's this guy? And you feel pretty good about that.
Yeah, but I think their best bet would be to go to EU and find somebody like that and just take a gamble. Or even go to Brazil and take a gamble. You know, find an underrated, underpaid AWPer. Tell them you're going to be our star AWPer on this team. The problem with that is you risk them being a downgrade on Hulzerk, going missing completely, and then being just completely screwed, going off the map. They already tried this with Hulzerk. They know how good Hulzerk is, and they've shown they actually can win events with Hulzerk on the team. So, like, their ceiling is still good. And that's all you really need. Like, does it really matter if complexity go out last 5 times a year if they win one event a year or they get to one final? Like, I personally would take that trade if that's the trade it is.
This comes to a separate discussion, but like, what is the ceiling of a team that you, without like question, will be 3 players from the United States of America? What is the ceiling on that team?
From the United States of America?
Well, because we just went through this. Complexity is trying to.
The problem is the 2 best NA players are Canadian, and then the third one
is they
Elysian, and the
have.
fourth one's Guatemalan. So,
But the thing is, you have 3 North American players right now.
yeah.
If 3 American players right now. If you went to go change either Floppy or Grim or Liege and
Who
said
do you
we
even
want the
get?
3 best American players,
I
you
think
come
end
up with this list.
Grim and Elysian, I think so. I think so too. I don't think like somebody would say automatic over Floppy.
But you're taking a gamble on that, and I'm not sure it's a
Yeah.
worthwhile gamble.
I agree. I think some people are higher on automatic than I am. Like
But
maybe he's still good.
Even if you switch automatic for Floppy and automatic becomes the second best player in North America, does it matter?
It probably helps a bit, but yeah,
it probably brings the floor
point.
of it. But does it move the ceiling at all? Like if you say you're gonna have
Hit
this,
me out. Hear me out. Holzerk,
yeah,
he stays.
Yeah.
JT,
yeah,
Elige,
yeah.
Stewie automatic. Hear me out. Winners. You got winners throughout. Stewie and Elige have
So
Grand
remember how
Slams.
we
Automatic's got a major. You know what? Bring back Tarek as well for JT. What's Skadoodle doing?
I was just gonna ask. Hold on, wait. We need an old offer here.
Yeah. Put Holzerk in for Skadoodle and just bring back Cloud9. Who says no?
I'm not saying it would be bad, but would it be good? Yes, for Jason Lake's wallet. Can you imagine the content you get out of that team?
Can you imagine how many complexity vests, like tank tops, he'd sell?
Oh my god, the content you get out of that team with Stewie and Tarek back alive.
If he signed Stewie 2K automatic Tarek and sold Save NACS on a tank top, he'd sell
so
millions. He wouldn't
sell millions. He would definitely sell to a lot of NA people.
He'd sell 10 to Ryan at Dust 2.
It would go right next to his liquid jersey that says Save NACS on it. All right, let's go talk about Group B. We've talked about Group A for 21 minutes.
It's fine. There's nothing else.
There's nothing else.
Week,
yeah.
So.
And Group B was quiet, so that's fine. Vitality, Gamer Legion, Astralis, and Falcons. Did Vitality do exactly what we expected? Yes. Yes, they did.
I mean, usually Astralis are good at these type of events, but yeah, Vitality is a bit too good for them. Which is surprising, actually, because Zaiwu was like notably absent at this event so far.
He was absent in the second game. He was there in the first game. But I want to talk about Gamer Legion for a second.
Yeah, but like...
So we're going off this based off like, hey, teams made moves. Gamer Legion made moves. I don't think because they really wanted to, but they did.
That's always the
Gamer Legion mantra. But so in May they brought some new players in for Acor and Chaos who left. Chaos went into the breach, and Acor is on also in
TSM.
TSM, yeah, that
think.
Yes.
If in doubt, the player you're thinking of plays for TSM, OG, or Into the Breach. It's one of the three.
Isaac left to go to NIP, and Flamus is back. It isn't. So they made the move when Snacks got moved over to G2. They brought in ZTR, who is a former NIP player. So this team looks completely different now than the team that got them to the finals in Paris. The only player that is still there is Volt.
Yep.
They took a map off Vitality.
And even he's changed his flag.
Yes, because he used to be British, now he's Romanian.
Yeah. Not that I care, obviously. Not that I care.
They took a map off Vitality, which is fine, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, that's worth something.
Yeah, it's definitely worth something. It was the first map, right? It was Anubis. Zaiwu was alive on that map. It was kind of a team thing. On the other side, Astralis played Falcons in what I deemed to be one of the most interesting matches storyline-wise.
So this group has loads of storylines and very little Counter-Strike is the problem.
Yes.
Like, Vitality, Astralis, and Falcons all in the same group should be really spicy, but I'm like...
It's the Dupree... It's the Dupree group.
It's the Dupree and the Magis group.
And the Magis group.
And the Zonic group.
And the Zonic group.
Like, there's so much going on. And none of it really matters.
Yeah, because Astralis absolutely slapped the shit out of Falcons.
Yeah, we know exactly how good Vitality are. We know exactly how good Astralis are. We know exactly how good Falcons are.
It
Actually,
seems
maybe we don't know exactly how good Falcons are.
no. I think we know the ceiling of how good Falcons are.
Well, the ceiling should be insanely high. All of these players are pretty successful.
See, but you say that there has to come a point when so Snappy, Dupree, Magisk, Madden, right? Those 4 players. They have been on Falcons for 7 months.
Dupree's only just joined.
He's been there for 4 months.
Yeah, but one of those months was a player break.
No disagreement. I'm just saying. They've been there for a bit, okay?
Yeah.
There has to come a point where when 2 of these players have been with Zonic for ever, know the system already. That's the other thing. Snappy's system turns into Zonic's system on this team. Magisk already knows the system. Dupree coming in shouldn't have to learn this brand new whole system. There's no way that it's that different.
I don't think you know Snappy very well if you think he's willing to completely acquiesce to his code.
I don't think it's a complete acquiesce, but the Snappy system that is in place on Falcons cannot be that different than
even if it's a Sonic system, Snappy will call like fast hits 6 times a half. Like Snappy loves his pace changes, loves them. Like it doesn't matter who the coach is. Snappy is going to call an A rush on Nuke 4 times a half. So he's just going to do it.
Falcons did show up when they played against Gamer Legion in their lower bracket. On the other hand, I'd hope that this team with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 player major wins and another 4 major coach wins.
It's 9, isn't it? Dupree has 5 and Magisk has 4.
Dupree has 5 and Magisk has 4. 9 major wins as players and 14 coach wins. I sure as hell would.
14
with coach. Sorry, player and coach.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
Yeah. I'm adding another 5 for Zonic. I'd sure as hell hope that they beat a Gamer Legion lineup that has barely had any time together with a
I mean, sorry, before I'd watched Gamer Legion, my mate was like, "Oh, Gamer Legion are pretty good," and I was like, I just looked at them and went, "They don't pass the vibe test." He's He's like, I won't be surprised if they beat Falcons and then Astralis. And then I was like, I just watched a bit. I was like, they're not beating Falcons. Like,
no,
they can't get past Dupree. Like, Tiara's like 1 kill. Dupree is just like Magisk didn't even show up for map 1, and Falcons were just too strong for them. Like, they're not. Maybe they will be good in 6 months. And they're not good yet.
No,
like they're half decent at Anubis, but.
So Vitality beat Astralis in the upper finals. The consolidation finals, which will be Friday midday, is Astralis versus Falcons, which went very poorly for Falcons last time. We'll see if there is any better version of it.
Look, there isn't like they will be motivated. I will say that they have to be motivated for this. But like man for man, Astralis just outshoot them, and
it's not close right now either.
It's not like man for man. Astralis firepower is just better, which is the depressing thing to say about one of the most expensively assembled teams of all time. Like, kind of the problem is that Sun Pius isn't the same player on CS2 as he was on CS:GO.
No,
and he's still decent, but like he just doesn't have the magic he used to have. Like he was one of the guys at the end of CS:GO. Like he was the guy who would shut down ZywOo every time they played. Like that, Sun Pius was that good. Like he was top 3, top 4 AWPer in the world. Probably the 4th, maybe the 3rd best AWPer in the world. He's now like what 8th
at best.
Like you take Device over him probably. You take ZywOo, although he's ZywOo and AWPer, whatever.
Yeah, we had this discussion last week, but like.
He'd obviously take
wonderful
Monacy.
Shiro, Monacy,
wonderful you take over him, like
Torzy,
ZywOo,
depending on the
maybe
day.
Shiro.
Do you take Brokey over him? Because at this point, I'm kind of taking Brokey. I'm thinking about it at least.
I don't know.
That's a problem. I'm thinking about it.
Do you know what it is about Brokey? We'll get onto him. I genuinely have no idea how good Brokey is.
Zero clue.
He's been in like tier 1 for about 5 years. I've got no idea how good he is.
Zero clue.
Some days he's the best author in the world, and some days he looks like he's no idea what he's doing.
The biggest problem for me is I was so convinced that Brokey was this incredible clutch player, and then I watched.
He is.
But then I watched the finals of the last major.
Yeah.
And watch Brokey misplay ancient A-side clutches, and I don't know anymore.
I always come back to... Do you remember when Launders was on this podcast with us?
Yes.
And he talked about how when Phase 1 Kato, I think it was, and he was MVP, he said he was going to do Brokey week, and he was just going to watch Brokey demos for a week. And he said after 2 days of watching Brokey demos, he'd convinced himself that Brokey just wasn't any good at all. But the more he watched Brokey, the worse he thought he was. And ever since he said that, I can't stop thinking about it. And now when I watch Brokey, I'm just like... Have you seen the scene in Community where Abed goes insane because he can't figure out if Nicolas Cage is a good actor or not?
Yes.
That's what I'm like with Brokey. Like, is he a good author or not?
I don't know. Discuss.
He has to be good, but how good is he? I don't know. I have no idea. And he still might be better than Sun Pius on CS2.
Let's take our little break right here. We're going to talk about some North America news as a little palate cleanser between groups. Let's start with this. There is a team in ECL, which for those of you in Europe that don't know what ECL is, because I don't know if that actually is in Europe.
We have something similar, I think.
It's the ESL Challenger League. Basically, it's the top league for NA. It's what you get if you play through all of ESEA, you get to that. I don't think ESEA is particularly prevalent in EU either, but that's its own matter.
No, we use Faceit.
Yeah, so ESEA leagues, top of the ESEA is ESL Challenger League, which is ECL. You have to make it through everything and then play a qualifying series. It can't just be anyone. And there are legitimate-ish orgs that are in ECL.
Legitimate-ish is so funny, by the way.
There's too many fucking acronyms here, okay? Yeah. There are too many acronyms. Noun is in ECL. Legacy is in ECL. Wildcards in ECL. Party Astronauts was in ECL. May still be. NRG is in ECL. The top
Nouns and NRG are legitimate orgs.
M80 was in ECL when they had a full lineup. I think they're still in ECL. I'm not totally sure on that one. Basically, the only two NA teams that aren't in ECL are Liquid and Complexity because they spend so much time in Europe that they can't actively be in ECL.
Yeah.
There's a team called Perseverance. They have a roster of a bunch of players that you don't know or care about, other than Kojomo, who you may have known from. We've talked about him in conjunction with the Davenport roster a couple times, which he was on about 5 rosters ago.
Right.
The team has been banned. The team's called Perseverance. The players of this team have been banned from ECL because they tried to emergency reschedule a match by faking texts from a power company saying that a player's power was out because they had just recently made a player change and the old player could still play, but the new player couldn't, or they weren't within, or it was illegal for them to play before a certain day. Something was going on with a new player not being able to play, but the old player being able to play. And they didn't want to play with the old player, so they faked a power company text. And it is glorious.
The irony of being called Perseverance and being kicked out because you just couldn't be asked to play is so funny.
So the org has dropped the roster completely. They had a whole they put a big thing out that I'm not going to read the whole thing because it's exactly what you think, but I do need to note that in the bottom left, in the thank you for reading this, is thank you. That is all for now. Period. Perseverance Gaming Management, and all I can think about when I read that is the Bugs Bunny. That's all, folks. At the end of Bugs Bunny, it's all I can think about.
To me, that is maybe the most passive aggressive thing I've ever heard.
I know, it's great.
Statement. It's so good.
But so Dust 2 did some excellent investigation, okay? And I suggest that everyone go read the Dust 2 article because there are screenshots and they did weather maps on dates. They did an excellent job. I have a huge amount of respect for Dust 2 on this. But the actual image of the text was shared with Dust 2. And it says it misspells the word experience and is just so grammatically incorrect that I do not know how a single person would say that it was a power company.
Well, the sort of person who thinks this is who thinks this will work is not the type of person who can spell.
Like, and
if you can spell, you don't think this is a good idea.
There's some other insane bits here. Like, the message from the power company came through as an iMessage.
Amazing.
That's not happening.
Such attention to detail.
Like, they screenshot the weather app here, and it shows that there's rain. And then Dust 2 goes and looks and says, apparently, only 50 miles from weather data 50 miles away from the actual screenshot, there was only 0.73 inches of rain, which is like a centimeter and a half. And it topped out at 13 miles an hour of wind, which, quote, is not likely to create a high risk of power outages. It is excellent.
Yeah, it's so half-baked. It's something that would only happen in North America.
It's the most NA shit. And that's so insane because we literally 2 or 3 years ago, we had an entire segment of this podcast dedicated to alarms with North America because a player slept through his match.
Yeah.
That was at 7 p.m. or some shit. That was so much of a bit that when I went to Fragadelphia 2 years ago, I brought clocks with me to hand out to players.
Yeah.
And that is somehow not the stupidest thing, because this is.
It's just so half-baked. I can't get over how...
It's bad.
You would have a better chance if you just said, we've got a power outage on one of our players.
If
you just said that, they'd probably just go, fuck it, whatever. They actually wouldn't care. But because you've gone so far as to fake it so badly, it just clearly doesn't... Maybe there's rules where you actually have to prove that one of your players has a power outage. I don't know.
I don't know.
I don't know how you could prove they had a power outage if they had a power outage.
I do have to say, I love that it's the message says, my power company is sending me alerts about power outages tomorrow. If I can show proof, can we reschedule? And this was against Mythic, so the Flom stream team. It wasn't even against Nouns or something like that.
Yeah.
Do you want a screenshot of this? And then he drops 3 screenshots.
That's what I mean. He's too keen to share the fake screen. Look, I'm not going to teach people how to lie because I'm not particularly good at it myself. I'm a terrible liar. But I think step 1 is
don't do this.
Don't overshare. Just say, shit, sorry, I got a power outage tomorrow. Can we reschedule? Wait for them to answer.
How do you say, I have a power outage tomorrow?
Yeah, it's a bit sorry, I can't come to your party tomorrow. I've got a headache. This doesn't make sense.
This is like the fucking... There's a tweet that's from a professor that was like, I used to teach a class at 8 a.m. and 31 kids' grandparents died during that class. But the second I moved the class to noon, all of these grandparents are still alive. I am personally making sure that grandparents stay alive. And obviously it's because people were like, no, fuck you. I'm not going to 8 a.m. class. But
yeah, I wouldn't go today. I didn't go to many 8 a.m.
But my point still stands. Is why are you saying all this shit? Just don't show up.
Quite that's what I mean. The easiest way to lie is to not lie at all, or just make it as light as possible. To say sorry, can we reschedule? Wait for them to say yes or no. If they say that doesn't sound real, then you can send the screenshots.
Apparently, it was an emergency reschedule or something. But
does that matter? I don't know.
It doesn't matter. I don't fucking know.
I don't know. It just seems so... It's just... It's like he wanted to be caught.
All right, let's go back to... I was going to say real Counter-Strike.
Games that actually happened, yeah.
I was going to say real Counter-Strike, but we are about to talk about the group with Ninjas in Pajamas in it, so it's questionable to begin with. Group C, FaZe, Cloud9, G2, Ninjas in Pajamas.
Fun group.
Real fun group. I legitimately mean that. I don't know if you're trying.
It is a really fun group. You have no idea if anyone's any good except FaZe.
and we're not sure if FaZe is any good.
Yeah.
So
We
FaZe,
don't know if Brokey's any good. We've already had this discussion.
FaZe beat Cloud9. That does not answer if Cloud9 is good.
No,
Inter's was terrible in this match.
Yeah, Inter is terrible.
I know, but they brought him back.
We already know this. Look, I don't want to be mean because no, actually, that's a lie. I want to be mean. I shouldn't be mean, because it's just
Yeah.
But like, we've seen Inters at this level. Cloud9 already kicked him because he didn't think he was good enough once. He hasn't got any better. I just say, if they'd picked up another player that had been benched by TSM, you'd think they were mental.
Mm-hmm.
It's only because you've heard of him, and he used to be on this team, and he was bad then. But the team was good, but he was bad, so you think he's good, which is fine, whatever. Like maybe there's something in that. Maybe he was just like the Bill Russell of support players. He wasn't. He just had Shiro and Axile online.
And speaking of which, Axile continues to look good. Icy seems to be a decent pickup. He looked good in these games.
They look good in those games.
Heavy God was fine. Like
Axile has dropped off a cliff recently. If he comes back, like this team might be good.
But like their ceiling is still not that high. I'm not convinced.
No, I would say if Axile comes back to his 2021, 2020 level, Axile Icy Heavy God is good.
I'm still worried about the Inters of it all.
Like Boomich should be your fifth best player because he's like Carrigan, where he will have pop-off games. And if he's your fifth best player, your team is pretty good. If he's your fourth best player,
there's some questions that we have to start asking ourselves.
Your ceiling's still probably kind of high, but you want Boomich to be your fifth best player.
The other opening match was G2 against NIP. As we had talked about before, G2 overdid some changes. Snacks is in as the IGL. Yep. Continues to sprout the exact same stat line as Hooksy through their one game. NIP made plenty of changes over the break.
Yeah.
Or maybe they made them a couple months ago, but it feels like it was over the break.
And they had like 4 players posting Hooksy numbers in this game.
Yeah, it wasn't great. Wrinkle does not look like the same Wrinkle as we saw before the player break. But it is one match I'm not willing to overreact. Yeah,
and like the fourth best player on this G2 team is Malbs. Like, do you know what I mean?
And Malbs is better than every single player on NIP with the exception of maybe Wrinkle. I'm willing to stand by that.
I'd say so, yeah. And it's like if these players show up, it actually doesn't matter who's on the other team.
Yeah.
If any 4 players on G2 show up,
if any
it's
3
really,
players
really
on
hard
G2
to
show
win.
Up. If any 3 players on G2.
If you've got 2 leaks, you got a leak on either side of the map, you got an issue.
Just assume that Snacks won't show up, and just tell me that if Monazy, Hunter, and Malbs show up, tell me that you're losing the game.
Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, it's like it's pretty hard to beat this team if they decide they want to win. It's
a big question.
I've always been an NIP hater. I actually think this roster's kind of interesting, so I kind of want this team to do all right. I'm not going to write them off because they lost 2-0. It's kind of interesting. Wrinkle's a fun player.
Wrinkle is an interesting player.
I quite like Isaac as well. I think Isaac's pretty good. So
I have questions about this team. I've said my questions on many occasions, so I'm not going.
I don't particularly want Rez on this team, but they want to stay Swedish, so.
Well, they want to go back to being Swedish.
Yeah, fine.
Cloud9 play NIP now as this podcast comes out. Actually, 8 hours after this podcast comes out, or 5 hours. I don't remember when this podcast comes out anymore.
It won't be 8 hours after.
Well, if it comes out. It says 8:30 a.m.
It's from 13 hours from now.
Yeah, we used to release at midnight Eastern time, which is 4.5 hours from now.
We might not be able to get it out in that time.
Well, I think we're doing midnight Pacific now, which is 3 more hours. I don't know.
It's half past midnight here.
Don't worry about it. Group D is the last group. We're closing it out here. This group is actually really interesting. Navi are just coming off their win at EWC. Yeah. Big is a team that I have many questions about.
Yeah, but I don't really care about the answers.
I don't care about the answers either, but I have questions.
I've
Virtus
got
Pro,
questions about Big, but if they never get answered, I'm like, yeah, fine.
we continue to have questions about Virtus Pro, and Liquid, this is their first showing as their new lineup.
Yeah.
Let's start on the Na'Vi big side. Na'Vi did exactly what the number one team in the world should do against this big team.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing else. They 2-0'd them. It barely went into second gear.
That's all I have to say. Okay. I want to spend a little time on the Liquid Virtus Pro match. Because there is some stuff worthwhile talking about here. This was Twist's first time IGLing in a match. He did very well. He continued to perform maybe a little worse than I would have expected Twist to be, but not markedly.
I don't know about that. He was clearly the best player in the
server. He was definitely the best player on the server.
Yeah.
NAF continued to be very good. JKS was very good. Yakindar actually won opening duels. Ultimate had a really bad start to the first game.
Yeah.
He had a really bad start to the first game. And then finished that first game, which did go to double OT, triple OT, which did go to 3 overtimes, with 32 kills, which is reasonable-ish.
So I have 3 points here. One is you would never ever want your first tier 1 game against Virtus Pro.
No.
You let him off. 2, are you aware of I've forgotten what the third one is, so it might only be 2 points. Are you aware of the star player IGL cycle? I saw this posted on Twitter the other day.
No, please inform me.
Star player is a good second caller. They might be a good first caller. Starts really well in first tournament. Gets worse. Goes back. They sign IGL. This guy's a really good second caller. Twist is in the first tournament high bit. He will almost certainly dip down because this always happens. Device was amazing in his first IGL.
I agree
as well.
He's been good since. That's not. This isn't a dig on Device. I mean, he's still been a good player.
Oh yeah, he's still good, but he's not like god tier.
No, but I think
the third point I wanted to make is that this Liquid team on paper is amazing.
Yeah,
I think people have sort of gotten lost in all the changes. Like on paper, this team is really good. There's depending on how highly you rate Ultimate, which we'll see how good he is. But this team won games with OC as their AWPer, and he's probably about as good as OC. So
he was fine today. He wasn't great. He had a little bit of a showing on the second half of Ancient and into the overtimes. It wasn't amazing. His Dust 2 was fine. Liquid also stomped the shit out of them on Dust 2. Like Twist and NAF were both above 1.7 ratings. They stomped the shit out of them. But if you're Ultimate, this is kind of the best you can hope for to start. On you win against Virtus Pro, you win
without you needing to do anything.
Virtus Pro is a terrible team to play against. Now you go play against Na'Vi, also not a great team to go play against. But if you can go test yourself against Wonderful, and Na'Vi calls more like the rest of the world.
Yeah,
and I know I know that Virtus Pro is switching to the rest of the world style, and it's a whole thing, but they still are weird.
Yeah,
if you can go play decently against Na'Vi. Yeah. You're pretty fucking happy.
Also, this is a hard group for your first tier 1 group because you've got Big, who are very
very structured,
very rigid. Virtus Pro, who used to be very rigid, now they're kind of just, as you mentioned, weird and mechanically so good throughout. And then you've got Na'Vi, who are arguably the best team in the world at the moment. You put him in you'd like to be in Group C, where you've got FaZe, who are kind of, group stage FaZe aren't that scary. You got Cloud9, and maybe you get an NIP. If you put them in for G2,
actually, literally any other group you'd want to be in.
Yeah, that's what I mean. You'd rather play against Falcons.
The Spirit OG Complexity Heroic group, you'd rather be there. Yeah. You'd rather be Vitality.
Spirit is scary, but I think they're not as difficult to play against as some of these. Na'Vi are really hard to play against.
It's just Na'Vi and Virtus Pro and Big all have specific styles. Everyone else plays just like EU Counter-Strike.
Yeah, that's what I mean. But you can sort of get into a rhythm easier. I think it's really hard to get rhythm against these teams.
But here's the thing. Liquid won.
Oh,
They
yeah,
actually
did.
won.
They didn't need him. Yeah, they didn't even need him to show up. This rifle core is amazing. JKS NAF twist is amazing as a core.
And
It's just
JKS
really
looks good.
Yeah, of course he does. He's a good player.
I know. I just would like to remind you, which is gonna this may fuck with your head. It may also not. JKS has played
NAF.
with NAF before.
Yeah, on Renegades. Yeah.
Yes. It was a weird time, but JKS has played with NAF before.
Yeah. And NAF cooked JKS out of his roles.
That is true.
I'm pretty sure that's true, yeah.
I think that's true. They took away NAF and brought in Jacob at that point. So there was some
basically
switching, but
NAF was like, if I have to be on this fucking team, I'm having your roles.
But he went to Liquid right after. But
and he's been brilliant ever since.
He's been brilliant since. So
yeah.
And JKS has been really fucking good since that point.
Yeah, I mean JKS was a superstar, was like Renegade's a superstar. Everywhere else he's been like a role player, and he's just kind of good at everything. He didn't really have much of it. Like he's not the best aggressive player, but even on phase, he was actually pretty good aggressive as well. He's kind of like not flawless, but
he's the closest
really
you're
strong at everything you want him to be good at.
He's closest you get to the Twist Majisk Mezzy category of chuck this player somewhere and they'll be fine.
Yeah.
Without being in that circle of 3 players. And I'm not even sure Mezzy's really in that circle.
Yeah, I was going to say, I would say probably Mezzy and JKS are probably kind of similar, to be honest.
They're like just outside the circle. But that's not a bad thing. That is an extremely...
Mezzy's very aggressive. Mezzy's a lot more aggressive than those two.
That's an extremely exclusive club of people who have Twist has won a major and a Grand Slam. Majisk has won 4 majors and a Grand Slam.
JKS won Cologne and Kato in the same year.
JKS won Cologne and Kato in the same year, and as a stand-in.
When he was a full-time player when he won them both in the same year, I think.
But he also won as a stand. He's a very good player.
Yeah.
If that's the company we're talking about we're not talking about you in the company of Rez and Plopsky or something like that, right?
Oh yeah, JKS NAF Twist is a very accomplished. They're clearly very good, but they've also all got fucking trophies to show as well.
We'll see how this continues. Group D continues their run tomorrow and into Thursday.
Today, as you hear this.
Yeah, today as you hear this, into Friday and Saturday. The tournament will end on Sunday with the stupid bits, i.e. the second versus second place matches.
I love being so such a non-professional podcast. It's great.
Well, but okay,
just refer
but here's
to the stupid bits.
Each group has a final, and that's it. There's no...
You won't get that on HLTV confirmed.
Who's the fucking winner of this tournament?
And the winner's not for months, mate.
Yeah, this is to qualify for a qualifier for a tournament. I think.
6 teams go straight to full final.
And then the fall final people I go to... They go to world final.
No. Oh, yeah, true.
This is a qualifier to a qualifier to a final.
Yeah.
This is stupid.
We don't even know when World Final is yet because I've had to move it because the major.
It is TBA.
Yeah.
So that's where we sit right now. We will be back next week. We will talk about Cologne because Cologne's going to start.
Hell yeah.
Exactly a week from when we record this. We'll be done with the first day. Elliot and I will record. And you will know about Cologne play-ins into Cologne, the main event itself. We will see you all again next week. You can find us online at AZEsk, at ReadTLDR, and at Logan Ramhap. That's the end.